Well, hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, good day, whatever time you're watching, listening, what have you. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me today. I am your host, Michele Johnson, and I want to welcome you to Life Matters with Michele. You know, this is a platform where we discuss all things that matter to you. And so we talk about our community, we talk about our needs, we talk about our strengths, our weaknesses, whatever the case may be. We talk about what matters to you. So I invite you to post your questions. I invite you to chime in and let us know what you want to know about today's segment. All right. And so I want to introduce to you all my very special guest, Miss Catrina Reese. Miss Catrina Reese. And hello, my dear. How are you?
Hello, Michele. I'm doing great. How are you this afternoon?
I am awesome. I am awesome. Let me introduce you to the people. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Catrina Reese is the CEO and founder of Catrina Reese LLC, and she is a work-life balance coach, speaker, and facilitator, and she's becoming one of the nation's most sought-out coaches on work-life balance, empowerment, personal development, and business coaching. As a speaker, she is inspired at conferences and workshops all over the place. She's from North Carolina, but she is heard all over the place. She has her own talk show. She's a radio host. She does so much. I mean, I love her because she's just like me. You know, we doing it, right? Another
Yes.
Another thing for you all to know about her, she loves to help others to break out of the ordinary into the extraordinary. And she works with groups and individuals to apply tools to have work-life balance that reduces stress. Come on, y'all. That reduces stress, back up, that reduces stress and long-term burnout. Because, you know, we can all attest to that. And she works with entrepreneurs with their branding who are looking for the next elevation in their business. And quiet as it's kept, she's a psalmist, y'all. She has music out there, and maybe she can let us know at the end of the show, you know, where to find her music. I've heard her music. I've been listening to her before she even started recording. So I'm excited about this time. She's in the kingdom, y'all. So she's preacher, she's a teacher, she's an ordained elder, and you know we relate on that same elder same level because I'm the same thing. So again, we mirror one another. So I echo her heart, and she echoes mine. So again, we want to welcome Catrina Reese, and today she is going to be talking about work-life balance, how you can have your cake and eat it too. All right, Miss Catrina, you're up. Help us to learn about work-life balance. I mean, people are juggling their lives in every direction, and this pandemic has not helped. We have
Oh,
found
I totally agree with that, Michele. Yes. Again, first of all, let me thank you so much for this opportunity to come onto your show. I'm so excited. Again, we've known each other for years, and I'm just excited about what God is doing through you and your husband as well. But yeah, let's get into it. That's my passion, because I actually have a lot of things going on besides being a wife, a mother, a grandmother, just being involved in my community and part of different organizations and working my own businesses. So, with that being said, you have to learn how to manage your time successfully in order to be able to be with family, in order to take care of yourself, in order to make an impact in the kingdom. So that's what I do. That's my passion. And I'm also an ordained officiant, wedding officiant. So I marry folk and counsel and all that great stuff.
me too. I tell you, we mirror one another. I marry couples, I baptize, we do it all. But amen. So when we're talking about work-life balance, you know, we can draw the picture, we can say a lot of things about that. But let's talk about where we are in this particular season. We have people who are now trying to juggle family and job and home and homeschooling. Give us some tidbits on what does first of all, tell us what it means to have work-life balance, because a lot of people don't know what that means. What is
Well,
work-life balance?
what it really means is you're being able to do your work or whatever you do, whether it's outside work, whether you're an entrepreneur, and
Mhm,
then being able to come home and be just as effective
mhm,
as you are at work. And sometimes with work-life balance, we forget that we put so much into either our work or our businesses that we neglect our family. And so
mm.
that's what kind of work life balance means, that you should be able to balance your home life and your work life. Now, it's not always that easy, but it can be done because it's all about you managing your time. And one of the biggest things that I talk to my clients, and I'm also teaching a class right now, it's about looking at those things that sabotage your time.
Oh my.
We can be, I was one of the biggest procrastinators. I would always wait to the last minute to do something. And I would do it effectively, but I wasn't putting 100% into it. I would do just enough just to get by. And that's not the God we serve. We serve a God of excellence. So whatever we do, whether we're doing our business, whether we're doing our personal life, we have to do it with excellence. And I always tell, my clients, I'm a Christian coach. I'm a believer first. So I'm going to come from those principles
Right.
because whatever we do, we have to put God in it first. We have to seek Him for direction and guidance. And everything that, I teach people, you have to tweak it
Mhm.
because my life is not your life and your life is not mine. But I know basic principles that you definitely need to use in order to, have that self time with you. Because again, I was just talking to someone about this yesterday. We give so much of as women, we give so much of ourselves away.
Yes.
And we were taught that we have to give for everybody else, and then we put ourselves on the back burner. But that's not the case.
Mm.
We should self care, take care of ourselves first. Because if we're down and we're struggling and we're having issues, we can't be effective to our family. We can't be effective in our jobs. We can't be effective in our businesses. So that's what it's about. Work life is being able to take all of those things that you do and balance them in order to be effective, in your life.
So when you said the part about, women, because we are notorious nurturers. We want to make sure everybody's taken care of. We want to make sure that hubby's got it, we got children got it, jobs got it, ministries got it. You said something that was so key that put me in the mind of what the flight attendants say when they do their pre-flight checks and they do their emergency training. They say, put the mask on yourself first and then put it on everybody else, because it means no good if you're trying to save them and then you die in the process. Come on
That's
here,
correct.
we're not going to turn this churchy, but you can't die in the process of trying to save everybody else. So that when you said that, that's the first thing I thought about was those oxygen masks dropping from the ceiling, the compartment above, and then you can't put it on your husband or your neighbor or whomever, because then you won't survive. So that
Correct.
is a very good way of looking at this whole scenario in terms of self-care and work-life balance. And I think a lot of us get it mixed up because we're always told, at least we were told growing up, you got to love people, you got to help people, you got to make sure that you're taking care of everybody around them. It didn't matter how exhausted you were. It didn't matter if your body was failing. It was incumbent upon you to take care of everybody, because we as women, as little girls, what did they teach us? Take care of the baby doll, make sure her hair was clean and combed. We dressed the baby doll and, have tea part. We were taught that.
Yes.
So as
Yes.
women, this is what we do. You said something that I want you to talk about a little bit. You said you were the biggest procrastinator. And oftentimes, procrastination can sabotage, even though it comes out with excellence, it can sabotage some of us in the process. Unpack that for us a little bit.
Oh my God. That is a big thing. I think a lot of people, first of all, they don't want to acknowledge that they're a procrastinator.
Mm.
So that's almost like when you're going to AA or NA. First of all, you have to acknowledge what your weakness is.
Yes.
And once you acknowledge what that weakness is, then you can go in and find ways to change that habit. And so that's what it took for me, because one of the things with procrastination for me so many years ago was when I actually got started to work on that task or do. And let me say this: God anoints us all, and he will give us what we need in order to do the job or to do the work, but he
Uh-huh.
also wants us to do it in a way that we don't stress ourselves out. And that was the biggest thing. When I would wait to the last minute, I would stress myself out, and again, it took its toll on me physically. I am a 3 stent survivor, and
Wow.
I had a job that was very stressful. I would work long hours. I wasn't eating properly, all those things that take a toll on the body. And then again, when I would wait to the last minute, all of a sudden I thought I was having a panic attack, and that's not what it was. I actually was 80% in one, 85 and 90 in the other one. So when I
Wow.
finally went to the doctor, he said, "Do you not know that you're a walking heart attack?" He said, "You literally, the next thing that could have put you over the top, you would be 6 feet under." So I had to say, okay, look, and it was personal things too as well, but I had to make a decision. You know what? I know God has anointed me. I know there's more than he wants me to do. So you know what? I got to I'm going to say this, put my big girl panties on, and I'm going to do what I need to do to take care of Catrina first. And then I can be effective to everybody else.
Absolutely. And that is so key because we neglect the body, this body, to take care of everybody. And that is not how God intended it. Yes, we're supposed to be our brother's keeper. Absolutely. But this temple, we only get one. And so
Yes.
if we ignore the signs thinking, oh, maybe I'm tired, maybe I'm this, and like you said, you had a job that was very stressful. I told my husband, I said, I have 12 years before I can retire. And I'm not looking to get a job where I have to inundate myself with all of these responsibilities and duties to make somebody else rich and make somebody else better. And all the while, I'm stressed out. My health is failing, and then I'm no good for him or anybody else. And so I think people get it kind of confused, or they get in this mindset that work to get more, get more, get more. But in the process of time, there is that imbalance. We have a question that says, how do you balance marriage, ministry, parent, and business? How do you balance all of that?
Well, one of the things that I definitely do is I make sure that my home is taken care of first, because that's my first ministry. And I
Indeed.
think we forget about that. I've been a part of a lot of ministries, and they say that, oh, you're supposed to just soak yourself into the ministry and do what you're supposed to do and this, that, and the other, and that's fine. But my home, and I've seen a lot of marriages, pastors, just good friends of mine. They put all of their energy into their business, their church, their whatever, and they neglect the family, and then the family crumbles, and then they want to know why. Because first of all, your home is your ministry. You
Yes.
have to make sure. And my husband, I love him. And so, I've been married before. My first marriage, I did that, but it has to be a joint effort. It just
Yeah.
can't be one person doing all of the work and then the other person just taking, taking, taking. So it has to be in conjunction and with your partner. You have to make sure that you both buy into this 100%. But then I don't always accept a lot of things either. I used to, and
Yeah.
that was a part of the stress as well. I felt like, oh, if I was doing this, I'm doing what God called me to do. And sometimes your good intentions are not the best intentions. And sometimes you should not be connected with certain things until you seek God first for direction. So a lot of times when I accept things, I pray about it and I make sure that this is something that He wants me to be involved in. And then I set calendar. I have a written calendar. I have an electronic calendar. So I make sure when I'm looking at things that I accept and things that I do, I put them on my calendar. And I hold myself accountable for doing it during that time, whether it takes 15, 20, 30, an hour, or a couple of days. So I have put tools in place to make sure if I need to be here, I need to be here a little bit early. So I set aside that time. And with my children, I make sure with my grandkids, I don't have anything going on here. Come on, y'all. Let's go hang out. Let's do this and that. So you have to literally put tools in place to make sure that that time is open and available for you. I set time when I go to get my nails done, my hair did, all of that. But because now I've learned how to successfully put things in the right priority. That's another thing. Putting them in the right priority. Now I do have time to take care of myself and love myself because I'm first. God, of course, is the definitely the first in my life. But I have to make sure that I take care of myself first.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of us, and this was a loaded answer. I'm going to pull some, I'm going to extrapolate, as we say. I'm going to extrapolate some of the things you said. One of the things you said was that you put things on a calendar. A lot of people will take life willy-nilly, if I can say it that way. And they'll say, oh, I can get it. I can balance it. I can do that and do that. Everything I do has to go in my phone because
Yes.
I don't want any overlap. And so my husband, what he does oftentimes is he does agendas for us. I love him. He's the most organized thing. I'm telling you, I promise God, I love this man. He is the most organized person. And so we have a trip coming up. He will do an itinerary for the whole weekend. I don't get mad. I'll be like, okay, babe, what we doing? And even if he's got to schedule something, he'll say, honey, what's on your schedule? I want to make sure there's no conflict. And then
Yes.
we have established the fact that, and we're newlyweds. We were married before. That's a testimony. Then we got divorced. Then we got remarried. So we've been married for 6 months. But one of the things that we're noticing now is that everything in our house shuts down at 8 o'clock.
Yes.
So that from 8 until whenever we decide to go to bed, that's me and him. I don't care if we tiddlywink our toes. I don't care if, we watch a movie. I don't care if we have, a chat night or whatever, because we have to, like you say, prioritize home, which is your first ministry. And what we don't want to happen is for the enemy
Yes.
to infiltrate those cracks where you have too much on your plate and not enough time for each other. And
I
so
agree.
that
Yes.
calendar is key. So if I were to drop anything on anybody, it's to let them know you have got to schedule time for life, living, loving, and everything else. And I mean, I'm not saying you got to, schedule, you may have to
Yeah.
schedule panky. I don't know. Depending on how busy you are, you have to put it on the calendar 10 o'clock every night. I don't know. This is an adult show. Amen. But sometimes you have to utilize these tools,
Yes.
And so I just think it's very important that we recognize the fact that we're only one, we only get one of us. And so you were talking about being able to prioritize. I think some of our listeners and watchers would love to know how to do that. Can you shed a little light?
Oh yeah, again, like I said, my first priority is my home because that's my first ministry. And I'm not saying that I made a mistake with that in my first marriage, but
Mhm.
I think a lot of times women, again, especially strong Black women, when we've been doing things for ourselves for so long, and
Yeah.
then when you get in a marriage and now you have to, submit to your husband. And
Mhm.
submission is not a bad word.
Not.
And so that part about it is you have to relinquish some things and you have to say, you know what, baby, you are my priority. When I made this commitment at the altar with you or wherever you got married at, we said for better or for worse, sickness and health. And that's what I tell a lot of my couples. You have to remember once you make that covenant, and that's a God covenant, then you have to honor that with all of your heart, mind, and soul.
Yeah.
And a lot of women don't want to do that. So again, you have to learn how to say, you know what, this is a priority. My marriage is a priority. Taking care of Katrina or taking care of Michelle or whoever you are, even men, you have to make sure that you take that time and make it a priority. You have to set aside that time for worship. You have to set aside that time for prayer. You have
Yeah.
to set aside that time for you. And like you said, you and your husband, you know, my husband and I, Friday nights or our nights, I do have a shutdown time unless I'm doing an interview, you know, in the evening or something. You know, people know that after this time, I've shut down. Whether
Yeah.
you want to reach me for a wedding, you know, interview, whatever. If you the next day, I'll check my email. Or the
Yeah.
next day, you know, I have times that I do that. So again, you have to decide for your life, what
Absolutely.
is a priority, and then decide I'm going to tackle this, whether it's writing a book, whether it's starting a business, whether it's a ministry, you know, whether it's, you know, getting your children ready, whether you're homeschooling, you know, with this COVID going on. Now we've got parents now that are taking on the task of being, you know, the teachers and, you know, all of that stuff. You have to learn how to set aside time and see what's most important for your life.
Yeah. Yeah. And what we don't want is our relationships, our families, ourselves to be on life support, whether that's
Yes.
figurative or whether that's literal. You know, you don't want to find yourself gasping for air between appointments, gasping for air between assignments, because that does your body no good. And you're no good for the people that you're supposed to be taking care of if you are finding yourself constantly gasping, putting on the air mask, you know, putting on the gas mask every 10 minutes because you got to get to the next thing. That's
Yes.
not balance. So you mentioned something about men taking care of themselves. Now, you know, we as women, I'm fitting to say it. Yes, I am. We as women, we're nurturers, of course, yes. Men take care of themselves in different ways.
Yes,
And
they do.
sometimes to their detriment. Now, I'm not saying it's every man. So, all of my listeners and watchers or whomever you are, this is not an offensive moment. Don't build an offense between this situation or this statement. But a lot of men don't know how to create that balance. They were not reared to
Mhm.
delineate, compartmentalize, and you know, or those things where they compartmentalize in their heads because they don't tell you what they're thinking, or you know, so they put these little boxes and they don't let you in the rooms unless they want you there. But men, how do we speak to the men who believe that they have to work the 80 hours a week, they have to go play ball with their brothers or their friends, they have to do a meetup, you know, they have to take the call that comes in at 11 o'clock. And again, I'm sure it's a universal answer, but let's talk it through. And I'm not saying we have the solid answer, but I think there are some men out there who need to understand that they're included in the work-life balance process as well. And I don't think they do a good job. I mean, we as women, we don't do a good job, but we're learning how to. I don't think anybody's taught the men how to create that symmetrical life where everything's, you know, it's not so uneven when you're doing 80 hours a week at work and you make an appointment with your wife to get lovey-dovey and you talking about why you so cold. I ain't seen you all week.
I look, I totally agree with that. You know, and you hit it on the head. And I think this is kind of like a loaded question, but it's a twofold question. First of all, if you're married or if you're single. So again, when you're single, you know you have a lot more time. You don't have a responsibility, but you could be in a relationship, but you don't have that big responsibility of making sure that you have to nurture that relationship.
Right.
Again, like I tell my couples, you have to make a solid 100% commitment. If I am a part of this relationship, whether you're married or not, or we're getting ready to get married, this is what we need to do, and this is how we need to do it. Women need to be honest and open about what their needs are, and men as well, because if men are open and honest as to what they need, and again, most men just want affirmation. They want
Mm-hmm.
to know that they're a good provider. Of course, they want to know if they're a good lover, Men, that all those things. And I think they go both ways for men and women. But I think for men specifically, you have to remember that you got to take care of yourself. And in order to do that, set the priorities. It's the same way with men and with women. I would say that you have to learn to set your priorities. You have to know what you want, how you want it, and then don't let anyone, you know, you want to get good advice. Always get godly counsel. But again, don't run yourself down so much that you're not any good to yourself or to your girlfriend or your spouse or your significant other, whoever that person may, even your job.
Yeah.
Because again, everybody needs downtime. We
Yeah.
all need that downtime. And there's nothing wrong with getting with the guys or, going for a jog or a walk, even if it's a walk with your wife or, going to the movies or whatever. But again, it's all about setting that priority. And men need to learn that as well. It's
Yeah.
not all about, all work and no play. That's a lie from the pit of hell. And I'm going to say that.
Yeah.
It's not all work and no play. You have to learn how to work, play, live life, love life. But first of all, you got to learn how to love yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the number one priority. Because if you can love yourself, and don't be selfish now, let me say this, because a
Yeah.
lot of people can be selfish. They just want for me, 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 and don't want to give back. So I want to put that out there. But when you're genuinely wanting to do the right thing in your life, in your love, and your relationships, it'll come through. So men definitely need to do the same thing. You have to prioritize. You have to make sure that the commitment that you make to that other person satisfies you and satisfies them.
Absolutely. So one of the things we've heard or seen is men have been so pressured into being the provider that it's almost like a drive, an innate drive for them to be the workaholic, if you will, so that they can prove that they're the man, they can prove that they're the provider, they can prove to their friends or whomever is looking on that they've made it. And again, like I said at the top of this, to their detriment, because their relationships suffer, whether it be familial relationships, whether it be marriages, whether it be your outside cohorts of friendships. All of those things have a tendency to suffer as a result. Someone is asking, how do you declutter from the clutter of the world so you can manage your time properly?
Oh, wow. Again, you have to go back and look to see what is sabotaging your time. That
Mm,
is one of the big things that I teach. I'm teaching in this class that I'm doing, and I teach with my couples that I counsel, and and I use these. Well, let me go back and say this: most of the stuff that I teach, I've used myself.
mhm.
So you can only be as successful as what you do. So
Yeah,
I try to teach these things that have worked for me. Again, like I said at the beginning, you tweak it for your life. Make it work for you, because everything is not, cookie cutter. There's basic things, and then you make it work for you. But I would say for the declutter, the biggest thing for me is I'm a writer, and I love to write things down. And a lot of times when your mind is so cluttered, sometimes you just need to write things down, what you want to do, when you want to get this accomplished. So you
mhm.
set those goals.
Yeah,
Sometimes people can have to declutter their surroundings. One of the big things is I don't a lot of things around me. People say, "Oh, the messier it is, the more you are." I don't think so. I'm an order person. I love things to be in order.
we're breaking up a little bit.
Also
So
flexible.
So what you're basically saying is, learning how to get what's inside out. And so what I'm finding is I know that I write lists. I have to have to-do lists.
Change.
I have to do
So I like
okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're having a little technical
around
difficulty here. So until we can hear what our guest is saying, what I wanted to present is that oftentimes is that we don't know how to declutter because we don't know how to slow down. And sometimes our declutter is indicative of our priorities. Sometimes our clutter is indicative of how we run the rest of our lives. And so there's no way to actually be have that balance or have that peace or have that homeostasis, as we say in the medical field, where everything's balancing out. We can't have it if we have too many irons in the fire. We have too many things that are going on. We have too many things that are not allowing our lives to become what they need to become. So we just lost the feed for our guest, but I'm going to keep talking. We're going to keep this conversation going. And so we're going to go off of what I know. Amen. So if you have a question, you post it and we're going to keep on talking. Can an imbalance in the work-life equation even cause harm in the home, mentally and physically? Absolutely. Because if you are not able to create that clean slate in terms of how you manage what's going on in your world, it can certainly create a mental, emotional, and physical harm. So say, for instance, if you have, as we said earlier, if you have the individual, the husband, or even the wife, because now women are working more than the men, or just as much as the men. And so if they don't take the time to understand the needs of the people in the house, the needs of the people in their family, the needs of the children, then somebody is going to become the victim, if you will. Somebody is going to become the one who loses out. And so it's very important. It is very important that as you're looking at this whole spectrum, that you take the time to notice or to catalog what's going on that's doing the harm. So the imbalance can certainly cause some type of harm to your husband, your children, your job, your neighbors, whomever. We want to welcome Miss Catrina Reese back. We lost you for a minute. Are you still there? Okay, she's frozen. All right. So again, yes, it can cause some type of harm. It can mentally bother you because if you're too overwhelmed, if you're not balancing well, then the thought processes of your family members or even yourself could go awry because people don't know what you're thinking. Oftentimes you will act out what's going on in you and not know how that is actually going to affect the people on the outside. And so mentally you can become a mess because now you're thinking that because of the pressure, you can't think well. You can't think straight. Because of the pressure, you can't think about anybody else. All you're thinking about is the current pressure. So yes, mentally that can cause an issue. Physically, of course, the imbalance or, not being able to have that homeostasis, that equilibrium, if you will, it can cause physical harm to your bodies, because now your bodies are, subject to, stressors that now cause headaches, migraines, upset stomachs, ulcers, heart attacks, strokes, high blood pressure. So yes, it is incumbent upon us to recognize that there must be that balance between work and life. And work can be ministry, work can be going out into the community, work can be volunteerism, work can be where you get a paycheck, but that life part has to still come into play. We have a question that says, how can you approach someone who is borderline hoarder, but they refer to it as an organized mess? Well, first of all, that is an excuse because God is not a God of messes. He's a God of order. But I think some people get caught up in the mess because that's how their life is chaotic. And sometimes when we look at people's lifestyles, we look at people's homes, we look at people's desks, sometimes it's an indicator of what's going on in them. And because they don't know how to dissect, they don't know how to purge, they don't know how to extrapolate, they just they lump everything together and they call it good. But it's not good because I'm one of those people that I cannot live in clutter because it gives me anxiety. And so sometimes clutter can be a way of people disguising what's going on in their world, disguising what's going on in their heart, and disguising what's going on in their spirit. And so for them to say, there's some feedback, Katrina, there's feedback. So the borderline hoarder may be the person who is using the clutter as an excuse not to prioritize, using the clutter as an excuse not to address certain things that are in their lives. And so when people say that, well, I like my organized chaos, we have to dig deeper. That's a counseling thing. You have to dig deeper to see what it is, the undercurrent to that organized mess, so that you can understand that there is more to what I see, but it's really what's going on the inside. I hope that made sense. All right, Miss Katrina, you're back. There's a lot of feedback, my dear. I don't know if you can eliminate that somehow.
Is that better?
Just keep talking.
Okay, is that much better?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I want to apologize. We live out near an airport and we're on the main thoroughfare. So usually when we get an influx of a lot of planes, they kick my internet off. So I apologize for that. That was one of the things that happened. So it's been happening a lot lately.
we kept the conversation going until you came back, so it's all good.
But yeah, I heard you talking about the declutter, and that is correct. A lot of times clutter is about what's going on in the mind. And so you have to learn how to take those things that are around you, whether it's, a lot of people are hoarders. And again, you have to take those things out of your life that you realize that are distractions or they're sabotaging your time, and be honest with yourself.
Yeah,
that's one of the things you have to do. Be honest with yourself to say, you know what, this is sabotaging my life. This is sabotaging me not moving forward. It could be you could watch too much TV. You're on social media too much. Whatever it is. I get my couples to first of all write down the things that you do a lot of. And a lot of people love to be on their phones. They love to be on social media. They love to be on television. So again, if you want to accomplish something, you got to see what's sabotaging, your efforts first, and find good habits that work best for you.
Absolutely, because when we talk about work-life balance, and my husband and I, we talk about this quite often, not that it's an issue with us, but it's one of the things that we initially spoke about was being on social media. And so when we are together, like, I may pick up my phone, but I'll tell him, hey, honey, I'm just posting something real quick. Or he'll say he's posting something real quick. But we don't sit there and spend our time together scrolling. That is an absolute no-no in the Johnson household. That does not happen, because our FaceTime should be with each other and not with people who don't see us, don't touch us, don't care about us. They may care, but not to the extent that your couple does. So that is very important. Wanted to ask a question. You said we were having this discussion before we came live. And so one of the things I said to you was no is a whole sentence all by itself. So you tell everybody, and I believe it, no is a whole sentence. Tell everybody why no is not a bad word.
No is really not a bad word. And I had to learn that the hard way. And again, everything that I teach based on personal experiences, because people want to know, well, how did you get over that hurdle? Or how did you effectively, get that to work in your life? I used to say yes to everything because that's part of my nature. I've always had the spiritual gifts of helps. And sometimes when you have the spiritual gift of helps, you're all, when I see something, if I see a need, I want to meet the need. Yeah. And God said, that's not always the best way. And I had to really take a look at Katrina and say, you know what, I can't do that. I appreciate you, wanting me to help you, but I just can't. And I also pray about it. But again, people will use you up. People will prostitute your gifts and talents. And that was one of the hardest things for me to understand, and why it was okay to say no. And I don't really have to give people an explanation as to why. It's all about me and me being a part of something that's not only going to be a benefit for you if I help you, but a benefit for the kingdom, and a benefit for those that you're doing it for. So again, you have to look at the reasoning why someone is asking you to do something. You
Yeah.
get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because there's always an agenda.
Yeah.
And always remember that people have agendas, and people really want you to be a blessing to them, whether it's with your singing, your ministry, your business, whatever. But you have to learn to say, you know what, that's not what I need to be connected with. And it's okay to say no. And no is not a bad word.
It's
And
not.
that goes with your family. That goes with family members as well. I've had family members that wanted me to do things for free. And there's no, and I do that in business as well. I do pro bono stuff. Everything that I do, I don't always get paid. But I do know there's some things that God said, you know what, I want you to be a blessing. So, and you're going to turn around and get blessed when you do something from the pureness of your heart.
Absolutely. And so the question then comes, when we do say no to the people who ask us, if they get offended, then we have to question their motive.
Correct.
Then if they don't speak to you anymore after you tell them no, after you, and again, no, we don't owe them an explanation why we say no. Even when we lovingly say it with sugar and a cherry on top, they're still going to get offended. If I say I cannot come and minister at your women's retreat because I've already planned a trip with me and my husband, why are you upset? Why are you mad? There's an insensitivity deficiency there. There's a sensitivity deficiency there because you're not looking at my needs and what I have
Correct.
going on in my life, my work-life balance, because you want what you want from me. And so no is not a bad word at all. Um, uh, Someone is saying, can wellness and exercise help with work-life balance, and what do you do?
Oh, 100%. That's what I've started doing. I've been on this life change journey for myself again, because for me, I realized that I started having issues with chest pains again. And again, everybody has a reason why they want to lose weight, or why they want to, change, their eating habits. We began to kind of take a veganism kind of like approach to our life. And I realized that, through research, um, there were certain things that I needed to give up. My husband doesn't eat pork, not because he's Muslim, because he's not, but because he's allergic to pork.
Okay.
And of course, with my family history of heart disease, I had to literally back up off of that, which I've come completely off.
Yeah.
So again, exercise, I've started back. I would say a couple of years ago, I dropped like 40 pounds, and I picked it back up because again, I didn't stay consistent. And that is the main thing. You have to stay consistent with
Yeah.
any type of change. And the body's always going to fight because it's so used to doing the bad things. When you start introducing the good things, then it's going to fight. It's going to start retaliating. So
Yeah.
again, you have to be consistent. But yeah, I exercise. I get up, I do my walk away the pounds every morning, or I walk outside. I find ways to keep my body moving. I've begun to eat healthier. My husband and I, we bought an air fryer. So, we've cut out a lot of fried foods, which I had to. So again, you have to make yourself a priority and say, you know what, this is what I need to do to get better health, because you have to be healthy to do ministry. I would get up sometimes, I would go preach, I would go sing. And when I finished, I was sweating like a pig, Michelle. And that was because I wasn't healthy. And I've heard about, ministers, people having heart attacks, just
Yeah.
on the spot. And
Mhm.
so I had to say, you know what, Catrina, you got to get yourself together. I've dropped 33 pounds since, March, since the pandemic. And people say, oh, I'm at home now. I'm eating more. You can do what you need to do. Find you a video. YouTube is what I use, and
Mhm.
just make a decision that, you know what, I'm gonna get healthier for me. And your family appreciates it too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, I think we can bring this to the forefront, that work-life balance is an intentional thing. You have to be intentional in work-life balance. It's not something that somebody can do for you. It's not something that you can Yeah, you can read a book on it, but you have to practice it. I was telling my Bible study class the other day, you have to practice and participate in your own progress and your own process. So we can't sit there and ask God to do this. God remove the fat. God remove the heart disease. God remove this. And we're not doing anything that's participatory. We have got to work out our own, if I can say, soul salvation, even when it comes to work-life balance. We have got to be able to bring that homeostasis in, that equilibrium in, and be active within it. Somebody said making love with your spouse can remove stress, work life balance. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you can never get too busy living that you forget to make a life. That's good. That is real
I
good.
like that. I like that.
Let me say it again. Never get so busy making a living that you forget to make a life. And that is the truth. Working 80 hours a week, 70 hours a week, you know, you haven't seen your children since they were 6, and you look up and they're 12, and you're trying to say, oh, date who? When did you grow? You wear a bra now? You miss life because you're not putting in all of those checks and balances to make sure that everybody's getting what they need from you in terms of your family. I'm not talking about your job, but in terms of your family. But at the same time, you're getting those parts of you that you need to survive.
Exactly. And your family suffers when, and we've seen it. We see it over and over and over and over again. Your family suffers, they know, and I know you have to, be a minister, or you have to run a church, or, you have to, if you're an entrepreneur, you own your own business. But again, don't let that be so much of a priority that you say, I need to go to my son's soccer game, or I need to go to my daughter's recital, or I need to be a part, because they remember those things. I remember those things growing up. Both my parents are still alive. I praise God for that. But I remember the times that my mom was there. I remember the times that my dad wasn't there. So again, he made sure that when whatever he missed in one area, he would definitely make up in another area. And so you're going to have those things that happen. But as a couple, when you start having children, you have to make sure that they know that you love them, and they're a priority as well as your spouse.
Absolutely. And I think it's very important because with all that I do, and me trying to strive for work-life balance, my husband is a participant in everything that I do.
Correct.
He may not be on screen, but he's either producing in the background, or he's got his pom poms, if you will, his proverbial pom poms, and he's egging me on because he knows that I need his support. Just like when he's doing what he needs to do, he needs my support. So it's incumbent upon us, and it's vitally important that we understand that being there is more important than saying good job. It's more important than sending a card and leaving it somewhere. You have got to be able to have that tangible presence of the
Yes.
people that you say that you love and that are important to you. We have another question that says, within our community, why does it take a life scare to get people to get up and do good for themselves?
I would say because we have never been taught at the beginning, and it all begins with our upbringing and our raise and how we were raised and how we raise our children.
Yeah.
Again, we want the best for our kids, we want the best for our family, but you have to start at the beginning. You can't try to teach a child or train a child when they're a teenager something that you should have taught them when they were in those formidable years growing up. And I think as a culture, we did that because we were all about community, but I think we didn't do, and I'm not going to say everybody, because there are some situations where, the Black community in some families, they did a phenomenal job, but in some areas, we lacked that because we weren't taught that. And
Yeah.
I think once you know better, you do better.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Somebody says, don't win the whole world and lose your family. Absolutely. It's
Yes.
it's vitally important. We've been saying this whole show that we understand the necessity of balance, of knowing when to say no, when to turn down assignments and engagements, when to put down the phone, when to um, tell the world, "Hey, I'm shutting you out because my husband needs me, my child needs me, I need me." And even if God needs you, He even understands work-life balance. He said even the birds have a place. Even the birds have nests. You know, we don't nest enough. We don't take enough of that time to recharge. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yes, yes, I totally agree.
Recharge. Give us some tips on recharging. We're coming near the end, but give us some tips on how we recharge with this being able to have our cake and eat it too with the work-life balance thing. How do we recharge?
Well, let me share this. I shared this on a talk show that I was on Thursday night in San Diego with the Blissful Living host, Rochelle Lawson.
Mhm.
And it's biblical because remember, when Jesus went into the garden and he had that time where it was just him and his father, and he had two of the disciples that he wanted them to watch. And she was like, I never thought about it like that. You have to take that time where you have to get away from everything and everybody.
Yeah.
And then if you got a great covering, like your husband or your family or whatever, they will understand that, you know what, I know he or she needs that time to get away and to
Yeah.
get with the Father and to get that download or whatever you need.
Yeah.
Whether you get in a car and you go ride or you find that happy place, whatever it takes to rejuvenate and to get you back into that place of centership or
Hmm.
joy, because it's all about joy. If we are all going through something has knocked us down or sent us in a loop. But again, once we get back centered and find out where that happy place is, whatever it is, and I don't want it to be sex, I don't want it to be drugs, I don't want it to be those things, but those things that are positive that will edify the body
Yeah.
and will edify your mind and put you in a place where then you can go out and make an impact, a positive impact in the world, in your life, in your family's life. Whoever God has mandated for you to touch and to be a blessing to, you have to first of all say, you know what, I got to go back, I got to regroup again, whether it's journaling, whether it's listening to music, whatever it is, you find that happy place in order to recharge and regroup. Whether you want to go get your nails done, whether you want to go play hoop with the boys, whatever, and then you come back and then you can release back out to the world when you've released that has been kind of holding you down or making you feel inadequate or insecure. So that's the things that I feel like how each person should recharge. Find out what gives you that sense of purpose again.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things, and this is so good. One of the things that I notice is that we don't purge enough. Somebody said our family systems have to change because we don't teach this to children when they're younger, and so as they grow up, we all have seen it. We all grow up taking care of everybody else, doing everything everybody else, and we don't do that self care. But it's vital that we take that moment and disconnect. Dis-
Yes,
Disconnecting aids in the recharging.
yes, yes,
We put the charger in the phone to recharge it, but in essence, for us to have work-life balance, we've got to disconnect to recharge. It's the opposite of what the world would think. And so I think this has been such a rich discussion. I wish we had more time, but it's very important that we learn how to bring ourselves into harmony, bring ourselves into balance, be able to take care of ourselves. As we close, Katrina, just give us some final advice to give to the people about work-life balance. And I'm going to tell everybody how they connect with you while you talk, giving us the last minute advice.
Well, I would say, first of all, again, Michelle, thank you so much for this opportunity. I apologize for the interference that came through, but I hope this truly has been a blessing to the listeners. First of all, again, just make yourself a priority and not be selfish, because again, making yourself a priority is not being selfish. But it's also just knowing that, you know what, I got to take care of myself in order to take care of the responsibilities and the mandates that God has given me. And there's nothing wrong with saying no.
Yeah,
There's nothing wrong with making sure that you're in a good place, whether you need to change your thought patterns, whether you need to change your eating habits, whether you need to get rid of some people, that are toxic to you. I mean, there could be, the list goes on and on and on and on, but you got to be honest with yourself.
absolutely.
That's the first thing. You got to be honest with yourself and say, do I want change? Do I really want change? And if you really want change, you'll do what you need to do to make sure that change happens.
Absolutely, absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been talking with Miss Catrina Reese. She's been talking about work-life balance and how you can have your cake and eat it too. If you want to reach out to her, you can certainly visit www.katrinareese.com, or you can send her an email at hello Katrina. No, I'm sorry. You can send her an email at hello@katrinareese.com. I'm sorry. So that's www.katrinareese.com, or send her an email at hello@katrinareese.com. It has certainly been a blessing to share this moment with Katrina. And of course, you all can watch the replay on the YouTube channel, which is Life Matters with Michelle TV official. Don't forget to like, share, and to subscribe. You can also hear the audio playback on sensationalsoundsradio.net on Fridays at 4 o'clock p.m. You don't want to miss it. Share this with everybody. It's vitally important that we have some work-life balance. If you'd like to reach out to me to be a guest on the show, ladies and gentlemen, please email me, not email, excuse me, visit my website at www.im-mij.com. I'm booking guests now for June 2021. We are filled up all the way through June. Absolutely. This thing took off better than I thought it ever could, but God knows best. So thank you again, Katrina, for joining me and for discussing work-life balance and how you can have your cake and eat it too. I am your host, Michelle Irby Johnson. And remember, what matters to you matters to me. See you next time right here on Life Matters with Michelle. Bye bye.